Hi everyone, this is Dr. Chhoda and welcome to this episode of Ignition Time. I believe that the entire discussion about stimulus and the entire debate over is it necessary, should it be $1.9 trillion, which by the way comes from the Republican Party, the entire debate over whether stimulus should be large, should be bold, is rather unnecessary. In fact, in many ways, the entire discussion about stimulus is missing the whole point, and the point is we need to help the most vulnerable amongst us. You've heard me talk about this on my channel. Individuals in travel, leisure, entertainment, and hospitality have been impacted the worst. Long term unemployment is on the rise. The labor force participation is the lowest it has been since 1948, which means many people have dropped out of the workforce completely, and essentially they are not even looking for jobs anymore. Now, I want to be clear, normal times call for normal measures, but these are not normal times. In fact, this is a very abnormal time. This is a very unusual time. I've talked about a K-shaped recovery on our channel. Individuals who need help the most are being left behind. It's like a train that's leaving the station, and all the rich people are inside the train. All the people in certain job profiles are inside the train, but other individuals, ironically, in travel, leisure, entertainment, and hospitality, are being left behind. Individuals who help people travel, individuals who help feed people, are being left behind. It's a very unfair situation. On your screen, you'll see a very interesting article that was published by Bloomberg. The headline of the article reads, "The debate about stimulus is missing the point. This is not a normal recession, and a conventional stimulus is not what is needed." Now, this article was written by Mervyn King, who was a governor of the Bank of England, and he's also the professor of economics at NYU Stern School of Business. And he talked about the fact that we shouldn't even use the word stimulus. According to King, in many ways, stimulus is beside the point. The key words ought to be support and shift. Support in the short run for those who are the worst affected, which is what I've been talking about on my channel for a long time, and the shift of resources that will be needed later once the successful vaccination program, not to be taken for granted, has been largely completed. In other words, what King is saying is that A, we need to help those who've been impacted the most. We need to help those who are the most vulnerable amongst us, those who've been hard hit in different sectors, like I mentioned, travel, leisure, entertainment, and hospitality. We need to help those who want to put food on the table, who want to make rent, who want to be able to keep the lights on. That should be the number one priority. And once a successful vaccination effort helps everyone to go out and essentially resume life as normal again, even then, the economy is going to need specific sectors of the economy. Again, travel, leisure, entertainment, and hospitality, the unemployed, those who are the poorest amongst us, those who are the most low income amongst us, they need more support so they can feel economically, psychologically able to become a part of normal society again. Folks, it took decades for the wealth inequality to somewhat reduce, but what has happened in the past year has essentially set us back by several decades because the poorest amongst us have become even poorer and the richest amongst us have become even richer. This has widened the gap between the rich and the poor significantly because a lot of money was pumped into businesses, whereas normal everyday citizens, lower income and middle income Americans, were left waiting for stimulus checks, waiting for unemployment benefits. And what is ironic is that the low income Americans and the middle income Americans contribute a majority of the income of the federal government. In fact, I think Mervyn King does a great job explaining this in the article, and we'll provide you with a link to the article in the description section below. So definitely check it out and also comment and let me know what you think of this line of thinking. King writes, "The case for a large fiscal response going big is not to stimulate spending, but to enable businesses and the self-employed to survive while maintaining employment." In other words, businesses have to feel that they can be up and running again. They then create employment, and then that employment allows, this is very important, allows individuals, meaning their employees, to go back and spend elsewhere in the economy. This is very important, folks. This is how small businesses recover. So think about this. If travel, leisure, entertainment, and hospitality recover, if the local restaurant opens, if you now start traveling, if you stay at a hotel or get on a plane, that now creates jobs and that allows the economy to start moving again. And King also writes, such support will be required until we escape the fear of large numbers of deaths from the pandemic with all restrictions lifted and confidence largely restored. When we feel confident to go out and spend again, that's what creates the chain reaction of a healthy economy. And that's what, again, will make us the largest economy in the world, like we were prior to the pandemic. Now, this is where things get really interesting with this particular article, and King makes a case for targeting of the stimulus. Now, this is very important, folks. Just because you give money to everyone, that doesn't mean that the economy recovers. And by the way, just because we had a pandemic doesn't mean there should be large scale general stimulus for everybody. Why? Again, because some individuals have been impacted significantly worse than other individuals. And that really is what makes this entire situation so unique. This pandemic has essentially turned the world upside down. This pandemic has exposed weaknesses in some industries that are entirely dependent on face-to-face interaction, and it has essentially strengthened and magnified the power of industries that can function remotely. And this is very important what King writes. He writes the belief that the sharp fall in output over the past year is a reason for a large monetary injection reflects a fallacious view that any kind of negative shock justifies stimulus. In short, he's saying just because the economy goes down doesn't mean that we should just provide big stimulus for everyone. He continues, the economic models that lie behind that view, meaning people who believe in that philosophy, fail to pay adequate attention to the nature of today's shock. Further, generalized monetary and fiscal stimulus, notice the use of his word generalized, would add to the existing risk of much higher inflation down the road. In short, he's saying, hey, don't just give money to everybody, give money specifically to help people who are in a jam to get out of that jam so that they can recover and they can feel psychologically, they can feel mentally, they can feel financially like they can be a part of society again. They are not has-beens, or they are not people who should be left behind. And folks, again, this is a very passionate subject for me. I don't know if my viewers and subscribers know this, but I've been homeless. I know what it's like to have no money. I know what it's like to not know where my next meal will come from. And if you don't know anything about me, definitely check out my video right here. You'll learn a little bit more about who I am, what my journey has been like, and why you should listen to me. King continues, on the fiscal front, what's required is temporary support for those affected by the immediate consequences of the pandemic, not a long-lasting stimulus. Again, he's talking about helping people who need help the most for a short period of time through stimulus checks or through unemployment benefits. No one is looking for a permanent handout. Well, maybe some people are, but I know for most of us, we just want to get back to our jobs and we want to get back to being normal members of society, not depending on stimulus checks and unemployment benefits. I know for many of our viewers and subscribers, you're thinking to yourself, it's humiliating to be asking about unemployment benefits, to call the unemployment benefit hotline, you never get a response, to go on Reddit or to go on YouTube. I get it. But what I'm trying to tell you is that this has exposed the fundamental inequalities. And that's what King is talking about. And folks, you've heard me talk about Larry Summers, who was an economic advisor to former President Barack Obama, who's now an economist at Harvard, and of course, our own US Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen. They have different points of view. Larry Summers does not want big stimulus because he's concerned about inflation, and Janet Yellen essentially wanted to go big now because she said now is the time to go big. Here's what King writes. In fact, both Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen and former Treasury Secretary Larry Summers are right. It makes sense to go big with temporary support that will unwind as the restrictions are relaxed, just as Yellen advocates when she stresses the need to help people make it to the other side. But Summers is also correct in pointing to the dangers of a longer lasting fiscal stimulus on top of the Federal Reserve's large monetary injection. Basically, Summers is saying, hey, interest rates are low, there's a lot of liquidity amongst banks. Why should we inject more money on top of that? And that could lead to large scale inflation. I have done another video talking about the link between inflation and stimulus, so you definitely want to check that out. And towards the end, King writes, again, this is a great article, so I definitely recommend you check it out. Towards the end, King writes, support, not stimulus, is what's critical in limiting the damage from the restrictions while avoiding future inflation. And once that's settled, we can start talking about the next big challenge, guiding the long-term shift in economic activity that will be needed after the pandemic is controlled. In short, what King is saying is once we recover from this, our next challenge will be how to help those who have been displaced and help them find jobs in the new world order, in a new world that relies on remote work, in a new world that is largely dependent on the internet and in some ways independent of some of the old rules of in-person communication. Now, I don't think that's ever going to go away. I think we will resume some semblance of normality, but this is definitely the re-engineering of the world as we know it. I'll be releasing future videos on economic opportunities in the new world. So if you learn something new from my channel, please click like. Please subscribe. Please enable notifications. That would mean a lot to me personally. I would really appreciate that. That helps out the YouTube algorithm. Thank you so much for watching. I'm looking forward to seeing you in the next episode of Ignition Time. Take care. Bye.